Welcome back to the Sports Bruisers, and for this one, I want to start a new series on the channel. I want to start getting into podcasts, so these videos are going to be longer, and I know on average the videos are only seen the first 2 minutes in at most, so I know that it's going to be pretty tough to get you guys to really listen to it, seeing that it doesn't seem like, for the most part, interest-wise, a little difficult for that part, but I just want to start a podcast to see how it does. Again, they are going to be longer, I guess, for some, not so much to watch on your phone or wherever you're watching this from, just more to listen to. So for this one, I want to make it short as possible, but I want to kind of get through 3 topics today. The first one being the Aaron Rodgers situation with the Packers and the Jets. The second one being free agency, kind of going over the signings, trades, and players available, and last, ending off with March Madness. So to get into it, we are going to be talking about Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. If you have seen, it has been constant back and forth between Rodgers and the Jets. People waiting for his decision if he's going to play, if he's going to retire. Ultimately, a few days ago, he did announce on the Pat McAfee show that he intends to play next year and with the Jets. But the other part of the problem is the compensation for Aaron Rodgers. The Jets going back and forth of asking multiple first-round picks, or at least a first-round pick plus additional, whether it's players or more draft capital. And as of late on Dov Clement on his Twitter, his report, it says NFL teams not involved in Aaron Rodgers' trade said that the value is a day 2 pick this year with a conditional pick or 2 in the back end, per Albert Beer. No one seems to believe the 39-year-old Rodgers is worth a first-round pick like the Packers are asking. And I completely agree with this. I don't believe Rodgers is worth a first-round pick or multiple firsts. The problem is you have to look at as at the end of the year, this upcoming season, he'll be 40 years old, and you're not guaranteed if he's going to play the rest of his contract. You constantly see the last few years, he keeps going back and forth. I mean, it reminds me a lot of Ben Roethlisberger the last few years, especially when they drafted Mason Rudolph, being upset that they did that, didn't tell him. And every single year it's, I'm not sure if I'm going to come back, I'm not sure if I'm going to play, and ultimately comes back. But, of course, for Roethlisberger, he did slow down towards the end. Now, I think Rodgers, overall, in a physical standpoint and just keeping himself in shape, I think he's done a lot better job of that than Roethlisberger. I think towards the end, Roethlisberger was just too heavy. And, of course, at the end, he did change his diet and did lose some weight, but it was a little too late for that. For him, I wish he would have done that sooner, because I think he would have been a little bit better quarterback. Same way for leadership. I think both were questionable for leadership. I would say probably Rodgers is more in question for that. And it's, I don't know, it's just for both the situations, just from that standpoint, for their personalities, it kind of, that's how they resemble each other. So I get why you wouldn't want to give up a first-round pick for Rodgers. I completely understand that. Though I do believe the Packers still have leverage in this trade, those negotiations. I know I kind of keep seeing back and forth. The Jets have all the leverage because of they already announced that Rodgers was not going to be on the team next year and all that. I don't believe that. The Packers have all leverage solely because he is on their contract. He is theirs. The Jets have no leverage whatsoever. Okay, worst case scenario, they don't get a trade done, and he walks away. All right, yeah, it sucks you didn't get anything out of it, but at the end of the day, they still have Jordan Love. They know who they had at quarterback, and they move on. Yes, it sucks they don't get a first-round pick or a second-day pick, but it is what it is. They move on, and they're in the same situation. The Jets, on the other hand, they don't. Now, of course, I've seen countless times as of late of Matthew Stafford potentially being a backup, a fallback plan in case they don't get Rodgers. And it could happen. That is true. It could happen, but I'm sure with everything they put in place with getting Nathaniel Hackett, signing Alan Lazard, and probably trying to go after these other assets that he's made his wish list on, which was also Randall Cobb and Odell Beckham, they've kind of put more stock into trying to get Aaron Rodgers as opposed to Matthew Stafford. That was the whole plan. I think it's going to make him look even worse, especially the Nathaniel Hackett signing, if they did that, because that was the whole reason why Hackett went to the Broncos, because they thought it was a slam dunk that they were going to get Rodgers. It didn't happen. Instead they traded for Wilson. It fell apart there, where you want to say it's Hackett's fault for play calling, decision making, or Wilson just for solely just playing bad. But with all that, it didn't work out. The reason why they hired him was to get Aaron Rodgers, and it didn't work out. And there's a chance that this could be the second year in a row the Jets are more likely hired this guy just to get Rodgers. And what happens if they strike out again? It's going to start making Nathaniel Hackett look like an idiot, honestly. And teams are going to stay away from that, or at the very least, they're not going to take him seriously, because the whole pitch of getting him was, oh, maybe there's a chance we can get Aaron Rodgers. Well, no. If you do it a second year in a row and you don't get him, especially the Jets when they put more into it, signing players and so forth, they have everything. They have more to lose because of that. And on top of this, too, they're going to be stuck with the players that maybe they didn't necessarily like, but again, had to sign because of Aaron Rodgers' wish list. Who else do they have? Now, again, Matthew Stafford could be one. It probably might be a cheaper alternative for at least giving up for assets and also for contracts. A little bit young, a few years younger at 35. I think it's sometime before or during the season he'll be 36. So I understand that's a backup plan, but again, that's not a guarantee either. Again, probably much easier to get him over than as opposed to Rodgers, but the Jets are in a tough situation now. They have the draft. They still have time, but it's going to be hard for Saleh and the organization to go back to Zach Wilson after everything that's happened. The team seems like has kind of turned against him. It looks more and more that Zach Wilson is kind of just turning into a bust, and to many considered one of the biggest busts in NFL history, being taken way too high. You can also look at some of the other quarterbacks in that group, Trey Lance and so forth. At this point, Mac Jones looks like a much better pick. So again, the pressure's on the Jets to figure out who they're going to get at quarterback, because I don't think they can turn to Zach Wilson, especially with this team, how well it's built. They have an elite defense. They have great offensive pieces. If they turn to Zach Wilson and they fail again, if they don't make the playoffs or whatsoever, or if they have a losing record, it might cost Saleh his job, because people are just going to get sick and tired of he doesn't know what he's doing at the quarterback position. They can't figure that out. I still throw out there Lamar Jackson. I know that's much more to throw at Lamar. Of course, you have to get up 2 first-round picks to get him. On top of that, give him his fully guaranteed contract, whatever that is. I mean, at the very least, it's going to be around that Deshaun Watson money, $230 million fully guaranteed. But again, you have him for much longer at age 25 for Lamar. So of course, for age, you don't have to worry about future-wise. You can have him for maybe if you sign him 4 or 5 years, and maybe after that, maybe a few more years. So you can, at the very least, you can get 8-9 years out of Lamar. Depending on if you change the system up, and hopefully he doesn't get hurt once again. That's another option. I think it's more of an outlier, because I just think a lot of teams are going to stay away from him for right now. But again, they have more stock into trying to get Aaron Rodgers, and I think all the leverage is the Packers. They can just, if they don't like the compensation that the Jets are offering, they can just say no. And again, there's a chance that they could just get nothing out of him. He can walk away. But at the end of the day, they need to get someone else besides Zach Wilson. Mike White already left to Miami, so what other option is out there? Yeah, I don't know. It's just very interesting that it's kind of shifted from us waiting for Aaron Rodgers to make a decision, finally makes it, and now the only thing that's holding it up is not Aaron Rodgers, who we always kind of blame. The reason why he's kind of kept dragging this out for so long was because of him. Now it's the team that's done it, because now they can't figure out on compensation, which I thought it was essentially a done deal. I'm pretty sure there was reports before that the trade was a done deal. They were just waiting for Rodgers to make a decision. Now he finally makes the decision, and now we're waiting on what the compensation is. So for me, I think a second round pick, and maybe a fourth. Is it a pick or two? I mean, at the very worst, maybe a 2-4. 2-4 and a 5 or 2-4 and 6. I don't see a first round pick happening whatsoever. I think the Packers are kind of reaching with this. I understand he is a proven quarterback. He's a 4-time MVP, a Super Bowl champion, so one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. But with his age and his mindset, him being undecided on his future, it's tough to give up a first round pick when at the very least or worst case scenario is you're going to get 1 year out of him when you kind of put everything in to bank on him playing at least maybe 2-3 years. So I think the pressure's on the Jets because of, again, they're trying to trade for a player that, again, why compare to Ben Roethlisberger late in his career where very undecisive. People kind of question maybe if he's kind of losing a little with his age. I think he can still play, but I don't think he is the Rodgers a few years ago. And also, again, just the compensation to give up. I mean, again, the whole thing when they said 2 first-round picks, that's insane. That's not going to happen. I get they're just trying to get most out of him, but it's not going to happen. So my prediction is that we'll get closer towards the draft, and I think ultimately it will probably be at the very best for a draft pick, second-round pick. So I would say second, fourth, and a sixth. Or if you want to do a second, a fourth, and maybe next year's third or fourth. Again, I don't know how much they can get out of him. I think they're overvaluing Rodgers at this point. And again, there's not big of a market. Essentially, just the Jets, the Raiders already got Garoppolo. I'm not sure where else he can really go. So that's kind of my discussion on the Aaron Rodgers situation with that. And I'll leave it to it. I will make up videos updating on the whole situation as it goes along. But again, it's probably the same thing that we've been hearing about constantly keep going back and forth. Oh, the Packers want this, the Packers want that. Jets are willing to give up this, willing to give up that. So it's going to be dragged out, similar to like the Lamar Jackson situation. Though I think that'll probably, no doubt, drag a lot more or longer than the Rodgers. But you're going to hear about it a lot. It's going to get annoying, but it is what it is. So moving on to the next topic is the free agency. Giving the rundown, some of the bigger free agent names. No doubt, number one, we just talked about Lamar Jackson being franchise tagged on a non-exclusive deal. We said that he is able to negotiate with other teams, though many are, or I should say all are, refusing to negotiate because they know they're just doing the Ravens' work. No matter what they sign him to, Baltimore will match that. It could be a Patrick Mahomes deal. They will match the deal to make sure they get 2 first-round picks, and that's what's holding people up. Is for two reasons. I think for one, it's a contract for Lamar. Asking for Deshaun Watson money or more than that. I think it was reported that he was given a 3-year, $133 million fully guaranteed contract, or kind of averages out to around $45 million per year. He turned that down, and he wants to get Deshaun Watson money, and I think it's going to be very difficult for him to begin with, and now it's going to make it even tougher with giving up 2 first-round picks on top of that money, because you're going to need the first-round picks to potentially get cheaper talent to compensate with the high contract. I think for this one, this is going to be dragged out, I believe, the Deshaun Watson way. My video I made not too long ago was, at first I made a first video of the whole Lamar Jackson, his future. Then afterwards, I kind of broke down where he could possibly go. I said I believe this offseason that the Falcons were going to get him. And now it's like, as it keeps going on, I keep changing my mind about this. I'm not going to say it's 100% now that, well, I wouldn't say it's 100% to begin with, but it's like a slam dunk that he's going to go to the Falcons this year, or even the Falcons in general. I still view him as the number 1 spot because they are the team with the best draft capital, with the best talent around. I won't say the best talent, but just best situation, I think, overall for Lamar, if you're talking about for the suitors. I also put out on my Twitter, @SportsBruisers. I pinned it. I pinned a tweet, so it'll be the first thing you see. I put out a thing when the official offseason or official free agency started. So I wrote, with the official start to free agency, Lamar Jackson can negotiate with other teams. Keep an eye on these teams. So number one for official, I changed it completely. I think like 5 or 6 official teams that I had on there. So it went all the way down to 1, which is the Falcons. I did have wild cards in there too. I had 2. I think it was Patriots and Dolphins, and this one I changed it all the way to now there's 5. So the first one being Minnesota, Miami, San Francisco, Tennessee, Dallas. And I kind of wrote the bottom 2. Yes, I know the list sounds crazy, and I'm sure, probably if you're listening right now, it's insane. If you made it this far, I'm sure it's insane. But I want to kind of quickly explain my reason for all of them. I already kind of did it for Atlanta. The reason why I picked a lot of these teams is not that they need a quarterback, but it's a massive upgrade to what they have now. And I think, again, I know the biggest thing is the contract. That's the biggest thing. I think overall, if I had to guess the end result, I don't think he's going to get the Deshaun Watson money. I think he's going to have to take a little bit less than what he's asking for. Maybe $200 million fully guaranteed. That's probably reaching for that, but I don't think he's going to get more or the same as Deshaun Watson. I think owners, I did make a video about that. Are they colluding against him? That was I believe my second Lamar video. I 100% believe that. I believe they're colluding because they don't want this to be the standard, especially with Herbert, Burrow, and then soon Trevor Lawrence. They don't want to make this the standard. Of course, you have Jalen Hurts as well. I think they're trying to negotiate a contract with him. They don't want this to be the standard. They don't want this to be a norm of Deshaun Watson's contract, of everyone else getting this. They don't want that. And I think they're going to do whatever it takes to stop him. And I think ultimately it's going to lead to team quarterbacks and players in general, but mostly quarterbacks, getting fully guaranteed contracts. But I think they're just trying to really slow it down with Lamar. So going back to the teams, again, what I said, I think it's a lot of these teams are just, I think, better upgrade. Not the position they have right now is horrible, but they can do so much better. So Vikings, I know they talk about Kirk Cousins re-signing him. They keep giving him his fully guaranteed contract of like $80 million, $60 million, and all that. But I think especially, I don't know if Dalvin Cook's going to be there. They are trying to move him. So if they did get Lamar, chances are Dalvin Cook's not going to be there. They re-signed Alexander Madison to a 2-year deal, so he'll probably be the feature back, or maybe they'll try and go in. We still have the rest of free agency, or in the draft, we'll try and get their feature or committee to be behind Madison or split. But you still have T.J. Hockenson, you still have Justin Jefferson, K.J. Osborne. Adam Thielen is now gone. Defense, they are reworking that, but I think especially in the NFC, having Lamar, having an elite quarterback like that, it's really going to put you up there as a automatic Super Bowl caliber team or Super Bowl favorites in that conference just because of the lack of elite quarterbacks in that group. I think that would certainly make the Vikings a top 3 team. I think just on paper. Again, I know I don't have the numbers crunched up about how it would fit under the cap and all. I actually do have Justin Jefferson coming up soon, and he's going to be demanding top dollar money, and rightfully so. I predict, probably easily, an easy prediction that he will reset the market, and he will probably be paid the highest paid receiver, rightfully so. Again, it has been an unbelievable, historic start to his career, amazing. So you have to worry about that. And again, defense, they are reworking that, cutting a good amount of players. Again, on the offense, Thielen now gone. Dalvin Cook looks like he's going to be gone because he doesn't want to take a pay cut. But I think the Vikings in general, it would definitely make them a favorite, especially in that division with Green Bay. You're not sure about Jordan Love, still trying to figure out that's going to be first year of post Aaron Rodgers era. Lions is definitely going to be a team that's going to fight for the number one spot in that division. Definitely had a great start. I think only can get better from here. And the Bears, a wild card for that one too. Again, they did have the first overall pick. They traded it. Definitely signed a lot of big players, Trey Edmonds and so forth. So I do, and also got DJ Moore, and we'll also see what they do for the rest of free agency and in the draft. But I think that they will be much better than what they were last year. Too. I'm not saying that I think they could rival to get the first spot in the division, but I think they'll definitely be tougher in that spot. But I think no doubt with Lamar Jackson in Minnesota would definitely make that team projected to be the favorites to win the division, and also the favorites, I think, are one of the favorites to go to the NFC. Next one, Miami. Again, it's like the money doesn't make any sense. But with these guys, there's a lot of teams like the Rams for a few years where it didn't seem like they had any cap money, and they go out and they sign someone. They did that for so long. I mean, the Saints, we'll get to that soon with Derek Carr. The Saints had negative $17 million, I'm pretty sure, and they signed them to a big deal. 4 years, $84 million. So it's 4 years, $150 million. So again, if you can it's going to be short. It's going to be short-lived with all those people. Because I can be able to keep everybody, but Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, the Mike McDaniel scheme, I think that would be unbelievable. People have constantly said Miami the last few years of he might go to. 49ers, again, I know you have Brock Purdy. I know you have Trey Lance. Brock Purdy, especially for Brock Purdy, he definitely was a shocker and almost led them to the Super Bowl. If he didn't get hurt, there's probably a good chance he could have. And who knows what he would have done in the Super Bowl. I mean, we'd probably be considering him the next Tom Brady if he did that. But again, I know that they already invested a lot in Trey Lance. But I think at this point, you might have to just cut loose from that. I think no doubt Lamar Jackson with that offense, especially that Kyle Shanahan scheme, with those great pieces around him, especially with McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, and so forth, George Kittle, and a good offensive line you still have, and also an elite defense. No doubt. That's probably, I think, just a talent-wise, I think Dolphins and the 49ers are tied at 1. Dallas, I think, is really up there. I don't know who would put as a slight edge, but I'd probably say the 49ers is probably the best spot on this list if you had to pick. Tennessee, I kind of threw out there because you're not sure. They're in a weird They're in a weird spot. They are trying to trade Derrick Henry. They're looking for a second-round pick for him. They did let go of Robert Woods, Taylor Lewan. So there's not many pieces. That they do have Malik Willis. Who knows what's going to happen with him? He's still a raw talent. I think you can still develop him, but how much do they have to wait? Like, how long are they going to wait for that? How long are they going to be patient with him? And I think especially with Lamar, as it goes on with Lamar Jackson, who knows, maybe with the contract, maybe it gets a little bit cheaper. Maybe they get a little tempted with it to get their elite quarterback and try and build around them. Again, not really great offensive pieces. You do have Treylon Burks. And we'll see what happens with Derrick Henry if he's still there, or whoever they add, and of course the rest of free agency or in the draft. So it's not really an ideal spot, but it could be a team that I wouldn't be entirely shocked if their name was popped up in speculation. And the last one is Dallas. Again, I know they have Dak, but we can all agree Lamar Jackson is much better than Dak Prescott. And especially with that, and that's a standard America's team. They haven't been to the NFC. They haven't been to the Super Bowl since 1995 when they beat the Steelers. And that's the last time they even made it to the NFC Championship game. Ever since then, they have not reached it that far. They've only gone as far as the divisional round. 2016 was probably the closest they were, almost beating the Packers. And who knows what happened in the playoffs before that. Because I think it ended up in 2016, they would have faced Atlanta in the NFC Championship game, and if they would have beat that, I don't know who knows what happened against New England. But regardless of summing up, it's been a very long time since they've had great success, and I think no doubt if they tried to figure out something where it's instead of, I know they can't do it because of the 2 first-round picks. So I don't know how it would entirely work out. So what I'm about to say probably makes no sense, or it's not even impossible. But maybe they sit down and they go, hey, maybe we can give you a first-round pick and maybe swap quarterbacks, or give you Dak Prescott and maybe a couple picks to get Lamar. But at the same time, I think Lamar would have to kind of ease on his contract demands and sign with Baltimore, and then they would of course trade. Again, I don't know if that's even possible with the non-exclusive franchise tag, but again, I think that could be something that Baltimore could be a little bit tempted on. I mean, Dak Prescott, I think, is a franchise guy. I'm not saying he's not elite, but I think definitely it wouldn't be a bad situation if they got some picks back and also Dak Prescott and started to rebuild that offense, and also Lamar goes there to America's team. No doubt there'll be box office to really help Jerry Jones. I know for him, he cares about his money. But again, the other thing is you have players coming up: CeeDee Lamb, Micah Parsons, Trayvon Diggs. You just got Stephon Gilmore, so the money doesn't make sense. But again, with these teams, it just seems like they're just playing they're kind of throwing their future away to win now. They're trying to gamble and winning for a 1-2 year run like the Rams. I think it's gonna be a trend that you're starting to see. The Rams put everything they had, trade their first round picks to get starters. Luckily for them, it did work out. They got one Super Bowl, but now they're tearing it down. So again, if any of these teams I just listed, it's probably going to ruin them in the long run because of just not being able to hold the talent around them. But I guess for a short term, if you're trying to bank on it, it could pay off. So moving away from the whole Lamar thing, we have Derek Carr, the Saints. Again, there was the Saints, Jets, Panthers. I really thought he was going to the Jets. I thought it was a slam dunk for that, and they came out of nowhere and gave him the contract. No doubt that makes him the number one favorites in that division. Of course, you have Baker. Who else? You have Desmond Ridder. I don't expect too much from the Falcons. You do have the Panthers, whoever they select at first overall if they trade down. So you could see C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young, Anthony Richardson. I'm not sure. So no doubt, I think it's for the Saints. It's a good signing. Get some of their franchise quarterback they haven't had since Drew Brees. I think that definitely makes them as a playoff caliber team, no doubt. So Javon Hargrave goes from the Eagles to the 49ers. Already had a great season this year and goes to a stacked 49ers defense. 4 years, $84 million. Again, they're just really trying to bolster that defensive line. No doubt, I think it's a great signing from them. We'll see what happens with that, but no doubt, I mean, the 49ers defense is already elite as it is, and now they they're just adding pieces on there. I don't know where they even got the money from to sign them, but same thing like Lamar Jackson. Hey, these teams somehow figure it out. Darren Payne, as expected, he did sign a franchise tag. He was franchise tag, but ultimately he did sign an extension, 4 years, $90 million. I think it's good. The only concern is he had his best year this year, but we'll see at 25. I mean, he still has plenty left. We'll see if he can recapture that. I definitely think it was a smart decision for them to franchise tag him to see if he can replicate that again, but they seem confident enough to give him a long-term deal. Saquon Barkley was franchise tag for 1 year, $10 million. I really thought they were going to do Daniel Jones the franchise tag and try and negotiate a deal with Saquon, but with this, I think this might be Saquon's final year in New York. I don't expect them to give him a long-term deal, being 26 at the end of the year. Next offseason, he'll be 27. I don't see them signing for a long-term deal, and I think this will ultimately be his final year there. Marcus Davenport leaves. The former first-round pick from the Saints leaves. The Saints to go to the Vikings, 1 year, $13 million. Okay, I'm not too big on Davenport, but again, they have to rebuild that defense, the Minnesota defense, from being horrible. So we'll see how that goes. The 1 year prove-it deal. Probably one of the bigger shocking signings was Orlando Brown going to the Bengals. I did not see this coming. I did not see Cincinnati giving out the big money, but especially them already giving out big money the last offseason after the Super Bowl loss to really bolster the offensive line. And they go out there and give him this deal. It's not the money he was looking for. Seeing that he wasn't signed the first day, and of course if you're not, your kind of value goes a little bit down. Didn't want to stay with the Chiefs because, of course, I think it was speculated that he wanted $25 million per year. With this, he definitely does not get that. at 64 million. If I can see that here, kind of averages out to 12.8. So, again, very surprised. People kind of think, a lot of people think he's a little overrated with his position. I know there's also problems with the tackle situation. He views himself as a left tackle. A lot of people view him as right. That's kind of where the problem came in Baltimore with that. He got traded to Kansas City, worked out for them. He helped them win a Super Bowl, but again, same situation with this. So we'll see how he does with Cincinnati. Definitely not going off. Definitely not taking a huge drop off from a Super Bowl champion to the AFC runner-ups, especially playing with one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL in Joe Burrow. So we'll see how they do with that, with the added protection. Kind of not going through all of them, just ones that pop out. John Taylor going from Jacksonville to Kansas City, replacing Orlando Brown, 4 years, $80 million. We'll definitely be interested to see if he can hold up with that, or if not, he can be better. But Chiefs do get their left tackle. I had him in my mock draft in the first round. Of course, them having the 31st pick. I did have him selecting a tackle, but they solved the problem in free agency. Daniel Jones, this is the one I thought he was going to get franchise tag, 4 years, $160 million or $40 million per year. It's a going rate. I get it. It's a going rate for franchise guys, but I think it's a little too much. I know it's not trapped in the deal. I think it's only a 2 or 3 year deal, basically, and they can get out. But I would have franchise tagged him and show me again. I know they got Darren Waller, huge trade him for a 3rd round pick. We'll see what they do with the rest of free agency and the draft, if they will get a receiver in the 1st round. But overall, again, I know he played much better than he had in the past. His stats weren't crazy. He only had 15 passing touchdowns. I get he doesn't have great talent around him, but I wanted to see us do this for one more year with better talent around him. And I know Daboll is trying to get better talent. Of course, just the obvious being Waller, see if he can stay healthy, but no doubt one of the better tight ends in the NFL. But I'd rather have him prove it to me one more time before I give him the big money. I get they're not trapped in this contract, but I think it just makes it look worse, especially with the Lamar Jackson controversy with the contracts, looking at Daniel Jones and saying, hey, he really hasn't done anything compared to Lamar Jackson. He gets $40 million per year, so what can Lamar get? For this one, again, not horrible, but I guess if I had to give a letter grade, I'd probably give it a C. I'm not a big fan of it, but hey, they have him for at least a few more 2 or 3 more years if not comfortable with him. Jason Kelce, rumored to be retiring. He does come back for another season and a 1 year, $14.25 million deal. It's great for him. Gives him maybe at least 1 more year to try and figure out the offensive line. Aging, no doubt. Josh Jacobs is franchise tagged, 1 year, $10 million. 25 years old, so there's a chance after this year I could see him get a long-term deal with the Raiders, but again, I view him as a Saquon Barkley. I think this might be his final year with the Raiders, and I think ultimately he will go somewhere else. The biggest shocker, or not shocker, was for our Bills, Tremaine Edmonds. He did go to Chicago, 4 years, $72 million, $50 million guaranteed. I think this is overpay. Personally, for me, I know he's still young. I know that's a big thing. Also, you look at his physical size, and people fall in love with that. He wasn't horrible here, but I don't think he lived up to his expectations. I think it's a massive overpay for him. I really do. I believe Chicago is going to regret this, especially when I know they play different positions on linebacker, but you kind of let go of Roquan Smith because you don't want to pay him, and then you sign Tremaine Edmonds. I think in most people's eyes, they view Roquan Smith better than Tremaine Edmonds. I get they play different parts of linebacker, but again, a little surprised with that. I think it's a big overpay. Jordan Poyer, this was a shocking one for us. I did not see Jordan Poyer coming back to us. There was a lot of, when they were kind of picking out teams, they said Miami could have been one. The Raiders definitely on free agency I constantly kept hearing their name. They decided to go elsewhere, and I was really happy to see Poyer come back for 2 more years. I do believe this is his final 2 years in the NFL, and he will ultimately retire. The deal was 2 years, $12 million, or up to $14 million max. So $6-7 million per year for an All-Pro safety is amazing. Again, this will be his final 2 years, I believe. After that, he will retire at age 33 or 34, depending on when it happens. But again, I'm very happy we get him back. Kind of fills a need for a short time as opposed to trying to scramble around and find a linebacker and safety. We kind of more focus on the defensive side on linebacker. There's also questions about Ed Oliver's future here as well. I keep hearing all try and trade him. I don't know how much you can get ready for that. I mean, I guess if you can try and get a second-round pick for him, maybe. But we'll see with that. But definitely happy with the Jordan Poyer signing. Jesse Bates leaves Cincinnati, go to the Falcons. 4 years, $64 million. Geno Smith returns to the Seahawks, 3 years, $75 million. I think solid signing. But does not rule out drafting a quarterback with the 5th overall pick. And with that, there's smaller signings, but I think overall, I think we've kind of covered the bigger one. Last one, Jimmy Garoppolo going from San Fran to the Raiders, 3 years, $67.5 million. Again, it's not a horrible contract, but it's again his injury problem. Can he stay healthy? Does this really push the needle a little bit further from Derek Carr in that division? You still have to face Mahomes twice, Herbert twice, Russell Wilson twice. So does it give you a better edge? I think you're kind of staying in a similar spot as you were. I understand if you want to move on from Carr because it's just, both sides just hasn't worked out. But I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo is a massive upgrade from that. I still think you're the worst team in the division. This doesn't even guarantee you a playoff spot. And I think ultimately this might cost Josh McDaniels his job. Kind of looking more. Tony Pollard was franchise tagged 1 year, $10 million. I could see Jerry Jones giving him a contract. And I don't think he's going to overpay as much as he did for Ezekiel Elliott, but I can see him staying for long term. That's probably out of the three that I'm more comfortable with saying that he will return as opposed to Jacobs and Saquon. Let's see. Scrolling down to see if there's other ones. There's a lot of signings. Again, I apologize if I didn't get to every single one. Just trying to point out the major ones or kind of bigger names. David Montgomery goes from Chicago to the Lions, 3 years, $18 million. I think that might seal a deal for DeAndre Swift's future there. Definitely, again, injury prone. Jamal Williams definitely took over that backfield, I think. And sadly for him, they did lose him. He did go to the Saints. And I really do believe they tried to keep him, but again, didn't want to overpay that position. I think this might be Swift's final year if he isn't gone. But I think David Montgomery is, I think, a better back. I think overall better back. I know talent-wise, Swift might be better, but again, it's just the injury problems. And Montgomery definitely has his fair share of his health concerns, but I think you're probably more comfortable with Montgomery as opposed to Swift. Juju goes from the champions to the Patriots, 3 years, $33 million. $11 million, of course, obviously easy math, $11 million per year. It's an okay signing. I mean, probably the best, no doubt, the best receiver they have on the roster. It's going to be difficult for them to try and get receivers. I know there's speculation of them trying to get D-Hop, but again, we'll see how that works out. See, Brandon Graham comes back in a 1-year deal with the Eagles. Mike Gesicki signs a 1-year deal worth up to $9 million going to the Patriots. So again, nice offensive weapon for Mac Jones. Getting rid of Jonnu Smith. My apologies. And having Hunter Henry and Gesicki as a 1-2 combo for that. Fletcher Cox goes back to the Eagles on a 1-year, $10 million deal. Though I do think that's going to be his last. A little bit surprising for running backs. I thought Devin Singletary would be off the board. I thought teams definitely would kind of not throw big money at him, but I thought he'd be signed already. So kind of look out for Buffalo, maybe trying to bring him back. Hayden Hurst signs with the Panthers, 3 years, $21.75 million. Alan Lazard goes to the Jets, as we just talked about with the Aaron Rodgers segment, 4 years, $44 million. Darius Slayton goes back to the Giants, 2 years, $12 million. I think that should be it. That should be it overall. Again, I know I skipped over a lot, but again, just trying to pick out the best overall. So finally, ending out with the March Madness bracket. Again, just quickly going over, and I just kind of a repeat of what the video I just posted out. But going over, Furman did lose, so San Diego State does advance. Looking out to Tennessee advances as well. So they both punched their ticket to the Sweet 16. Again, I don't want to be a copy of what I said in my last video as the games go on today and tomorrow. I kind of want to talk about the best teams remaining that I think. I know the obvious is going to be all the seeding, but no doubt Houston. I did pick in my other Houston bracket, or my other bracket. I did pick Houston to win there, even though that wasn't my official one. Of course, the obvious ones are going to be Alabama. I still think Gonzaga has a good shot. I did pick him as a runner-up in Arizona, against Arizona in the championship round. Another one to see. I was surprised. I thought Duke was going to pull it out. They'd lose 65-52. And then give you the recap. San Diego State beat Furman 75-52. And as of right now on CBS, 3:12 left in the first. Kansas is up against Arkansas 29-21. So for the rest, I wish I kind of had a bracket to fill out and kind of just see a better visual of it. But of course, you can't fill them out now because of the game's going on. But no doubt, I think probably my top two picks are going to be probably Houston and Gonzaga. For a team that might creep back in there, as in maybe a run-up is me, Xavier and Baylor. Baylor a couple years ago beating Gonzaga in the championship round game, especially their great defense shutting that down. It's going to be interesting to see how the other fairy tale or Cinderella stories are Cinderella stories are going to work out with FDU and Princeton. I do give them a good shot FDU to go against Florida Atlantic. Atlantic got pretty lucky in their win, last second win, so I do give FDU a good chance to win that. Over to Princeton, they have a tough challenge. Number 7 Missouri. I don't think they're going to pull it out in this one. I think Missouri will win that. For bigger, kind of like that for bigger games. Penn State and Texas. I have Texas winning that. For bigger one, Xavier Pitt. I do have Xavier for that one. But again, I think a couple teams to kind of keep your eye on. That I said in my last video. FDU, no doubt. I kind of went on a little bit of a limb. I said look out for Northwestern to upset UCLA. Just a guess. Again, as I currently said, I'm not. Sorry about that. I said attend to something quickly, but again, there's no rhyme or reason for this. I'm just guessing. That's why I basically did in my bracket. I think percentage-wise, for my Houston one, I've done pretty well. I think I've only gotten 3-4 games wrong. That being probably the Marquette, FDU, and the Missouri game. But overall, I've almost got everything 100%. So we'll see. Gonna go on a limb with that. Watch out for UCLA upset right there. And for the other ones, I only have FDU advancing or guessing FDU. I think Princeton, their run is over. It was a great run. Reminds me of UB a couple years ago when they upsetted Arizona when DeAndre Ayton was in his final year in Arizona when he was coming out in the draft. We upset them in the first round. So it definitely gives me a lot of vibes for that. Congratulations for them, but their run ends right there. Again, overall, I just don't want to kind of repeat myself because I just posted a video of the second round and kind of my predictions, but just want to do a quick glance on that. So I think teams that have the best shot, I think the two are going to be Houston and Gonzaga. We'll see with that. Definitely, I think maybe San Diego State could potentially be one. Could make a great run here. They either have to face. I project they have to face Alabama. So we'll see how that happens. I think there's a good chance Alabama probably wins that game against Maryland. I mean, they just jinxed them right there, but probably a good chance they'll face Alabama. I think I have them their run over after that, but we'll see. So with that, I'm going to wrap up here. It's pretty long. I know I really went in depth with the free agency, mostly with Lamar Jackson, but I want to I was on to here. Again, this is my first podcast. Again, I know for a lot of my videos, I do see for the duration time of people watching, it's very short. So I like to just ask you to please kind of, I guess, give it a chance. I know I'm not maybe at times maybe the most exciting listener or talker or someone that can entertain you guys, but I really appreciate if you guys can give it a chance and listen to it, give me feedback anything. If you do like the podcast, if not, maybe I'll stop it. But I want to maybe post a few and see how they do and take it from there. But if you made it to the end, again, 45 minutes now, I appreciate it. Thank you for sitting through and watching it. Very much appreciated. Let me know your thoughts down below if you enjoyed it, and of course, comment on the topics we talked about: Aaron Rodgers, the offseason, and now March Madness. Let me know your thoughts on all of that. With that being said, thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.